This is a recap of Dern versus Rebus 2 from this past Saturday. I'm going to quickly go over the results of the fights and compare them with the advice, picks, and bets that I heard this week from the quote unquote professional MMA cappers on YouTube. So, Mackenzie Dern won the fight by submission, but Amanda Rebus was supposed to be the winner because she had beat her before, and though the fight was 5 years down the road and they have both improved and got more experience since the last time they fought, most people thought that Mackenzie Dern's striking is pretty gross and that her takedown ability was not going to be good enough to take Amanda Ribas down to even be able to get a submission. But that is what Mackenzie Dern was able to do. So that was completely inaccurate. This whole week I had been convinced that Amanda Ribas was gonna win this hands down. So this goes to show if you're better like me and you like to make long shot parlays, bet small money to win big, you need to vary it up. Don't get in trouble with arbitrage betting, but vary up your slips. Have variations. It's just ridiculous. I could not believe this result. So next, Santiago won by TKO. Initially going into this fight, everyone was saying that Santiago is old and they weren't sure if he could be able to win, which was strange because Carlson Harris is old too. In fight years, he's a year younger. I did hear from someone mentioned that they thought Santiago might be able to get the KO or TKO, which was good insight. And even if he hadn't got that, he might have been able to get the decision. That was something that I was thinking. Next was Cesar Almeida and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Most people were siding with Cesar Almeida. I did hear someone say that they thought Abdul would be able to get the knockout because he is a power striker. But logic did prevail in this fight. Cesar is a professional kickboxer. That's his baseline experience. And he fights people. He has fought people like Abdul. So he was able to stay safe, stay composed in the pocket, and ultimately deliver his big counter shot and put the power puncher down with his own power. The next fight, Roman Kopylov and Chris Curtis. The stoppage was some BS. Just because Roman walked away, wanted a walk-off KO, doesn't mean that the ref should have stepped in and stopped it. Chris was hurt, but he was still getting up and turning to face his opponent. Though it was quite slow, he was. Should have just let it go to the decision. And even if it went to decision, Roman Kopylov should have won that as well. But this week, a lot of cappers were going with Roman Kopylov, which was good insight. And after watching them face off with each other, part of you thinks that Chris Curtis, he's a veteran, he's fought great fighters, it's hard to put him away, he'll at least make it to the end, which he almost did in this fight. But after watching them face off, and seeing how much bigger Roman Kopylov was, it strengthened my opinion that he would win this fight. Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Bashi, another fight where all the professional MMA cappers were just having a hard on for Austin Bashi. Some people saying that he's the next big thing. He's put the house on Austin Bashi. God, Christian Rodriguez. Oh, he's the undefeated killer. He takes everyone's but he's not gonna be able to do it here. This was just frustrating to watch. Especially when you see the odds for the fight. Bashi was like minus 500. Frustrating. That's all I'll say. Next fight, again, everyone was saying Euros Medic. He's the better striker. He's gonna be able to pick apart Soriano. Oh, Soriano, his only way to win might be to take him down to the ground like he did his last fight. But that was just the last fight. He normally doesn't do that. It's not his typical game plan. So I'm pretty sure he's going to lose this one to Euros Medic. None of that applied in this fight. Obviously, if you watched, KO. Round 1, 31 seconds in by Soriano. I wonder what the odds on that was. I wish I had that as a bet. Next fight. Jose Johnson versus Felipe Bunes. I did hear from one or two people about Felipe Bunes being able to wrap up the submission against Jose Johnson, that Felipe Bunes has submissions in his win victories from the past, and that Johnson has been susceptible to being caught in submissions. So that was very good information. Though a lot of people were going with Jose Johnson because of his last performance. I think it was, I don't remember the name of the fighter, but he's a decent fighter. But despite that, I did appreciate the good insight on the submission victory for Felipe Bunes. Next, Marco Tulio versus Ihor Pretoria. This one was pretty accurate. Most people were going with Marco Tulio. I was surprised that he was able to get the KO victory, and especially in round 1. Ihor is just, I don't think we'll even see him after this. It'll be surprising to see him back in the cage. He's on a big losing streak. But we're able to, I guess, learn a lot from Marco Tulio to see what he has to offer in the cage. We'll take that into the next time we see him fight. Then next fight was Thiago Moises versus Trey Ogden. This was a toss-up from what I heard from a lot of YouTube videos from different MMA cappers. I'm not going to go into this one too much. It was pretty split. So I guess it makes sense. It came down to a decision. It was close. Not really, but I mean, neither one at any point seemed to get close to a finish. So in that regards, it was just a close back and forth. Next fight, Jacoby Smith versus Preston Parsons. Now this was accurate. I think everybody was going with Jacoby Smith minus one person. And I did not expect the KO. Not necessarily. I mean, I believe on his Contender Series fight, he won by decision. And he wrestled a lot in that fight. But I do remember seeing in the Tapology and his method of victory that he did have KOs. I just wasn't expecting him to do that in his UFC debut against an experienced fighter in Preston Parsons. I thought he would go to his wrestling and secure a safe victory. But this guy got power in his hands. That was impressive. And that was one of the fights this week that everybody was agreeing with for the results. The next fight, Ernesta Karikate versus Nicole Cagliari. This one, it was pretty accurate. Most people were picking Ernesta. I did hear some concern or just some insight that Nicole Cagliari might be able to get a submission. I did not see any serious submission threat during the fight. She seemed content to just stand there and bang it out with Ernesta, but Ernesta started getting into like a flow state and getting her range and pulling away with the fight. So, but decision split. So when you're making your long shot parlays, you got to consider these results, especially in women's fights. This was my concern for the main event. I didn't see Dern winning via bad advice from other cappers, but I did have her in some slips winning via split decision because I thought maybe they would want Dern to win. Perhaps, I don't know if she's more popular than Rivas. I don't know about that for sure, but everybody gets hyped up for Dern's cheeks and her cannons and whatnot. So it just seemed like she might be able to win a split. Anyway, that was the result for this fight. Next fight, Bruno Lopez versus Magomed Gadzhiesulov. This was surprising somewhat because cappers were picking Magomed. But at the same time, not a complete surprise because, Bruno Lopez is a veteran, UFC experience. And I guess this came down to Magomed. He started kind of gassing out, seemed like, at the end of the fight. The accumulation of damage was getting to him. He was able to survive, but he definitely slowed down and was just looking to survive towards the end. So you gotta switch it up in the parlays. Just because someone's last name ends with Ulov, it's not a guarantee, and you can't have them in every single slip. You gotta mix it up. Next one, Fatima Klein versus Victoria Dudakova. Now this was accurate. And the odds were ridiculous, right, for Fatima Klein. But in the actual fight, it was close in the fight until it wasn't, right? There was times Victoria seemed like she could have taken control of some of the positions she was in, but she wasn't able to capitalize and get the dominant positions on Fatima Klein, whereas Klein was when she got into dominant positions. She was able to hold them and put Victoria in danger and damage her. So even though her performance wasn't minus 900 worthy, she, we saw what we saw. She proved she was the better fighter. And though she won via KO TKO, we got to take into account for the next time we see Victoria that she is a quitter. She quit due to strikes. She was just done. She wasn't looking for a way to escape, to minimize the damage, to survive. When she was getting hit, she just covered up and wanted the fight to be over. And last was Nurullo Aliyev versus Joe Selecki. I did miss this fight. I was out getting a case of beer. When I came back, I was already on the women's fight. But here, we see that Nurullo Aliyev won unanimous decision. And that was accurate. Most people were saying Aliyev would win. I did have him in some slips to win via decision. These type of fighters like to wrestle. I'm assuming it was a wrestling affair. I have to go back and watch the fight. But I'm assuming that's what he did and did that the whole fight. I'm guessing it was a boring fight, but I'll have to go back and watch it. I was concerned about Joe Selecki, his experience. I thought maybe he'd be able to to use his experience to win the fight. Just like I thought the same thing with Bruno Lopez, and Bruno Lopez was able to do that. Same thing with a lot of these fights, but like Christian Rodriguez. God, that fight pisses me off. Not the fight, but the professional cappers, picks and bets, just deriding Austin Bashi and throwing me off. I did have Christian Rodriguez on some slips, but not as much as I should have. So, in conclusion, what I learned is you have to take into account, really, your own opinions on these fights, I believe, before you listen to anybody else. Have your opinions, your picks, make some slips, some long shot parlays using your own picks. And then during the week, if you like to listen to some professional MMA cappers, go ahead and do that. You can get some good insight sometimes. Take everything with a grain of salt, compare it with your own research, and then make some adjustments. Make a couple other long shot parlays using that info. That way you increase your odds in winning some big money. Right? So that's what I'm going to do for this upcoming week. Gonna change it up. No more just going straight into listening to other people. Gotta get your own opinions first and combine it with other quote-unquote pro MMA cappers' opinions and insights. That's it for this video. Adios.